Why are taxpayers subsidizing political donations? Let's take a look at the differences of donating to a political party versus donating to a food bank. Did you know that donating $400 to a political party, you get back about $300 in tax credit, a 75% return? But if you give the same amount to a food bank, you get about $88, 22% return. So today we're asking, why does political preference get a bigger government subsidy than feeding people in need? And why most of the taxpayers are burdened with this unnecessary burden of paying for less than 1% of the population who donates? The federal political contribution tax credit is administered by CRA. Unlike a deduction, it comes straight off your taxes, dollar for dollar. As you can see in the chart, 75% credit on your first $400 donated, you get $300 back, and it scales down as you have a different percentage of credit based on the dollar amount. Compared to a charity, a $1,275 gift, you get only $342 in credits. So same amount to a political party, you get about $650, which is nearly double for funding to a charity. As you can see, a total of $61 million was donated in 2023, and obviously conservative party, they obtained about $25.4 million, and other parties got, as you can see from the chart here. On the other hand, the total charitable giving was about $14 billion. And the key point is less than 1% Canadians donate to a political party. Obviously, people in that bracket who have that disposable income, they can afford to pay, but the credit, the subsidy, is burdened by all taxpayers. The 99% share that credit that 1% gets. That's where the problem lies. On the other hand, $14 billion charitable donation, even that a large portion of Canadians are subsidizing that credit too. So it's clear that a large proportion of the Canadian citizens, they are disproportionately paying for that less than 1% who contribute to political donation as well as charitable donation. I think on principle, they both should be abolished because it doesn't benefit all of the taxpayers, and there is no common benefits in this case. And the people who have the money or who have the good hearts to donate to any charity, they would do that regardless if it is before tax or after tax. So in this case, there is no reason to subsidize any donation. If somebody wants to donate, they should be free to do so. But on top of it, CRA is just administer it, and they have a cost of administration, this unnecessary tax administration of and keeping track of who is paying, who is not. So we don't need government's involvement in whether it's a political donation or charitable donation. Yes, what government could do, in essence, is simply say that these are the limit to make it fair. So rich individuals or corporation cannot donate certain amount. Those type of limitation can be done outside the tax system, outside the scheme, and that could be quite straightforward. So here are the top 5 arguments for the political donation and tax credit. Number 1, democratic participation. Some people think that it encourages Canadians to engage financially with democracy. Small donors funding replaces corporate money, which is banned in 2006, I believe, and reduces special interest risk, and also keeps smaller parties viable, and favors small donors by design, because 75% rate applies only to the first $400, proportionally more generous to a $50 donor than someone who maximizing at $1,725. International precedent, France, Germany, US, and other democracies use public incentives for political giving. Canada is not an outlier in that sense. Now, here are the top arguments against the political donation tax credit. It's a regressive in effect. You must have a disposable income and file taxes to benefit. Lower income Canadians can participate, they only subsidize. So that's where its the biggest weakness is, that it should not be burdened by people who cannot afford to participate in this scheme. Zero public benefit test. Your tax dollar fund a tax ads for the political parties. There's no accountability. Charities face strict CRA scrutiny, which is just a bureaucratic way of keeping track of who is getting what, which, in my view, the government should not be involved in. If somebody wants to donate their own after-tax dollar, let them do it, with some limitation, of course, which can be fair. Unjustified rate advantage. No policy rationale for political credits being nearly double charitable credits. Why should partisan giving outrank hospital? So this is clearly political parties are getting a significant, advantage than their counterpart in the other charity organization. And subsidizing one person at the expense of all is patently unfair. Even in this case, the amounts are not that large for political donation, which is, as I mentioned, was about $61 million in 2023. But charitable donation was 14 billion. So that's a large sum of money. So that's about $4 billion of credits. So it also entrenches established power, and parties with existing donor network and their knowledge and their connection. This also helps them. And for a smaller party, it's very difficult to achieve the same type of political donation and success. So CRA only administer this political tax credit scheme, and it doesn't have a broader mandate. It's a cost to them, which is totally outside the tax collection scheme. So there's not really any benefit of having them administer for any reason. So what fair reform of the political donation tax credit could look like? We could equalize the credit rate for both the political and the charitable givings, donations. It can replace with per capita public funding model. We could add a public benefit test, which currently CRA doesn't have one, and cap the credit at a lower threshold. So these are some of the options available, but my personal view is that government should not be involved in this type of scheme lumped with tax collection scheme. People should be able to donate from their after-tax dollar any way they choose, and that should be a freedom that everybody should enjoy. However, government can limit the amount that can be donated to a political party by individual or corporation. We haven't touched the donations and issue by the corporation because big monies are actually donated by big corporation, and of course through the corporate tax system they have some benefit. They can donate certain percentage with some limitation of their net income. But that's not the scope in this particular episode. But I would love to hear your comments.